Everybody get in, sit down, be quiet. We have a ton of TWAB info to go over, and we gotta get going right now. Yesterday, Bungie dropped a literal game-changing info bomb on the future of armor, and today they dropped a mega TWAB outlining a ton of beautiful upcoming quality of life and sandbox changes. Okay, first up, the game-changing armor info from Wednesday. Unfortunately, I don't want this to be an hour-long video, so I have to paraphrase a little bit here. The good news, though, if you're looking for a summary, is that a bunch of other great content creators put out vids the other day covering that blog post. I'll go ahead and recommend Datto's video. It's concise and well put together. But the TLDR is that Bungie wants build crafting to be easier and better in Lightfall, so they're essentially reworking the entire mod system. They're touching pretty much every mod in the game. They're killing Warmind cells. They're changing how elemental well builds work. They're adding a new system called armor charge mods. They're giving us more ways to intrinsically deal with champions without needing to manually equip champion mods, and more. There's a ton of great information and exciting pictures in that blog post. Go check the post from yesterday. I will link it below, or again, go check out Datto or whoever's video for a brief recap. Again, really wish I could spend more time covering all that news from the other day, but there's just so much new information in today's TWAB. I need to get to it. I'll make you a deal. We jump into today's TWAB right now, and when Lightfall comes, I will do my best to make a detailed, in-depth guide as soon as I can on the new build crafting system. Deal? Deal. All right, first up, a bunch of random quick news bites. Bungie has already tweaked the drop rate on red border weapon drops in all raids and in the duality dungeon. Basically, if you haven't gotten all your crafted red drop weapons yet, get to farming. Next, if you care about gilding your Dredgen title, they're making that easier for people. Yay, who cares? Now, first big news announcement. Starting next week, after you reach the soft gear cap in D2, blue engrams will no longer drop for you in the world. Huge. If any of you are like me, then A, God help you, but B, you can breathe a sigh of relief that you'll now have one less thing clogging up your already full postmaster. They're also upping gunsmith rep gains by 25% to compensate for removing gunsmith rep gained from breaking down blue gear. Love the death of blue engram change. Get that filth out of my inventory. Next, due to player feedback, Rumble is no longer going to be a rotating PvP game type. It's coming back as a permanent fixture in PvP. The catalyst for the year 3 season pass exotics will now benefit from the season pass boosts like the other exotic catalyst quest does. Yay if that benefits you specifically. Next, under the random umbrella, they are adjusting the quest needed to acquire the class specific exotic glaives. No word yet from Bungie if they will buff those glaives to ensure that they'll no longer be piping hot bags of but I do remain hopeful. Bungie announced the day 1 Lightfall raid date as March 10th, which unfortunately for many is a Friday. Unsure if Bungie will ever go back to the Saturday day 1 raid date, but if you need to take time off for work or school, now would probably be a good time to put that request in. And with that, Bungie moves on to a topic that the community loves to hear and talk about: matchmaking. I'll give you a TLDR that many of you probably will not enjoy hearing, but Bungie wants to continue ironing out the kinks in the skill-based matchmaking system currently in place, essentially improving it, but they don't really appear to have any major plans for removing it or killing skill-based matchmaking in PvP. They do make a point of saying, quote, "We are aware of the current status of matchmaking, and we are continually working towards improving our features and systems. We believe we're on the right track." Bungie acknowledges that connection is still kind of an issue, but they want to move the needle closer and closer to a 50-50 match outcome prediction, and again, they do think they are getting closer and closer to achieving that. Another quote from Bungie: "This is an ongoing process, so please pardon the dust as we build towards a better future." Not a ton of new info on the matchmaking front, and all I'm gonna say on a personal note is this: everybody in D2 feels a little bit different about matchmaking, and if you feel strongly about the current state of matchmaking in D2 PvP, for better or for worse, be sure to be active in giving Bungie feedback. And on top of that, always be sure to up the odds of your feedback actually being heard and taken by being direct, but by not being a douchebag or throwing out personal attacks or threats. GG, and if people want, I might get into a discussion on matchmaking at another time, but I don't really know if I want to. Moving on to PvP stuff, we have Airborne effectiveness. I know, some of y'all's skin might be crawling already, wondering how Bungie's gonna make the system even worse, but good news actually. Basically every change to the AE system listed below is for the better. From Bungie, with this update you can expect a primary weapon with no investment, i.e. the default AE stat of a weapon, to be as accurate as a primary weapon with the Icarus grip mod equipped did before the introduction of AE into the game. So default AE stat value moving forward will be better than it was with Icarus Grip mod equipped before the introduction of AE. Huge. The auto aim angle is also significantly improved, and the magnetism penalty has been eliminated. Diving into the direct changes, reduced all additional primary weapon auto aim penalties by 60% at 0 AE for both M&K and controller. Increased the precision angle, aka how far off ahead you can be and still have auto aim give you a headshot, by 50% at 100 AE. Changed the curve to be exponential, so you'll get more benefit at high AE for both M&K and controller. Removed all additional primary weapon magnetism penalties, and at 60 to 100 AE, you get a magnetism bonus compared to pre-AE for controller only. Quick note, that is a huge buff for PvP controller players who want to build into aerial combat. GG. Reduced airborne accuracy penalty for all primary weapons per weapon type. Hand cannon and sidearm penalty reduced by 60%. Auto, scout, pulse, and SMG penalty reduced by 20%. Bow penalty reduced by 30%. Sniper and slug shotties have their penalty reduced by 50%, and pellet spread shotguns are getting their penalty removed completely. Overall, huge changes to the AE system, a lot of penalties being rolled back and rolled back hard. And again, on top of that, extra benefit to aerial combat for folks who play on controller. GG to y'all. Moving on to weapon changes. SMGs are kinda overly reliant on range, which I agree with. Pretty much every time I recommend an SMG god roll to anybody, especially for PvP, I always encourage people to go full on range. In response, Bungie is upping damage falloff and aim assist falloff at 0 range SMGs by around 30%, and they're reducing falloff at 100 range SMGs by around 6%. TLDR, more of a buff to low range SMGs and only a tiny nerf to high range SMGs, but I still expect them to be pretty good in PvP. Adaptive SMGs are getting their crit multiplier upped and their crit damage upped a tiny bit as well. If you've got a god roll Hero's Burden laying around, now might be a good time to go dust that off for a change. Also, the Forensic Nightmare SMG forgot to get its zoom bumped up, so they're bumping it up. Yay. And now changes to pulse rifles. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to these changes because goddamn are pulse rifles everywhere in the PvP meta right now. Bungie outlines their reasoning for toning them down, but the exact changes are as follows. Reduced aim assist falloff start at 100 range by 10%. Reduced damage falloff start at 100 range by 5%. Increased recoil by 20% on mouse and keyboard only. And that last change is really interesting. Pulse rifles are definitely very efficient at long range on M&K due to M&K having much less recoil by nature. Starting next Tuesday, it's going to be harder to use rifles from downtown on mouse and keyboard, which I'm kind of here for. And by the way, that's spoken as someone who plays about 80% mouse and keyboard these days. The BXR Battler is hands down the most effective legendary pulse rifle, which 100% of all PvP players named Drewski agree with. To help bring that in a little bit, they're reducing the BXR zoom from 20 to 18, making it less of a downtown beamer and more of a mid-range and close-range hip-fire machine. Also, sidearms are still a tad too hot, and Bungie is reducing the Season 18 aim assist fall-off buff from 30% to 20%, which I'm pretty much fine with. I don't think I ever want to go through another insane sidearm meta ever again. And now we get to exotic changes. Dead Messenger is finally getting looked at for being an insane monster of a weapon in PvP that is way too easy to use. Reduced wave splash damage by 35%, and I am completely okay with that. Dead Man's Tale, which has been running wild on PC for a while now, is finally getting a lot of its recently given buffs rolled back. Bungie mentions it had a, quote, much more dramatic effect than expected, which I won't lie to you, made me laugh pretty hard when I originally read the TWAB on Twitch. Here's the changes. Removed the damage penalty for 5 stacks of Cranial Spike, reduced hipfire and airborne AA cone angles by 25% on M&K, thank God, reduced hipfire cone angle bonus scaling from 20 to 5%, reduced hipfire precision aim cone angle from 3 degrees to 0.8, and reduced hipfire auto aim fall off scaler from 1.5 to 1.1. Between the DMT changes and the pulse rifle changes, I'm really hoping that starting next week in PvP, there will be less campy, defensive, long range style play. Huge changes all around. I loved popping people with DMT on M&K for sure, but it's gotta get reeled back, no question. Revoker usage has gone up a little bit in PvP, mainly because in comp there is no power level requirement. That's really annoying and terrible, so Bungie is changing how the gun works. so that it'll only give you a shot back if you have 2 misses within a 6-second window. GG. In the land of post-Lightfall, Bungie will be shipping more updates, including more substantial changes to weapon hipfire reticles, a full auto melee setting, which is interesting, another set of craftable raid weapons with an origin trait, and quick side note, if I can craft a found verdict shotgun, I will officially go bananas. Regular seasonal and mid-season balance updates, and more good stuff. Final things to cover today, changes to abilities, and these right here are big. First of all, the Citan Ramparts, aka the Titan Barricade that you can literally shoot through, which has been dominating the Trials meta for a long time. The cooldown of the Barricade ability while Citan is equipped is being increased by 70%. God damn. And increase the amount of damage players deal to a Citan Barricade by 25%. Hell to the yeah. Huge change. Actually really looking forward to going into Trials next weekend with less Citans running around and the DMT nerf and less pulse rifle range spam. But they're not done with abilities yet. Titan Barricade, Titan Thruster, and Hunter Dodge are all getting their cooldowns extended by the following amounts, all shown here. Not wildly extended, but I know a lot of people are probably going to be really mad about this change. And at the risk of getting a brick thrown through my window, I feel like it's a good change. ASTRO put out a video not too long ago talking about how the frequent overabuse of short class ability timers is a huge factor to making PvP slower and more defensive. And the more I think about it, I 100% agree. I think by extending those timers for just a little bit, especially for Barricade and Hunter Dodge, will make things more offensive and less slow and turtly. Titan Storm grenades are also taking a beating because even with all the work that's been done to them already, they're still absolutely cracked. Reduced damage and more of a delay between the initial grenade touching down and entering roaming mode. Finally, we got another big one. Remember way back when Bungie introduced a penalty that affected players while sliding? Well, because so many things have changed since then, Bungie is completely 100% removing the slide nerf starting next week. Fellow shotgun apes rejoice. Please let me know your thoughts on anything and everything in the TWAB down in the comments section. I really do want to hear from you. Drop me a follow on Twitch if you haven't already. Unsure if I'll be playing this weekend, but after the patch goes live, I'll be playing Trials next weekend for sure. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on stream.